It's been a very long time since I've made another video. I think in 2022 was the last time I ever made a video to follow up something. Anywho, welcome back, because I've decided that turning on the camera was actually a better idea than just writing it in a script and just burying it in my documents files. If you have seen how much stuff I've been working in the background, you will know why there's no videos being produced. So I do apologize for that, but at least I've got something for you. The internal debate between 100 series owners. I did allude to this previously on my channel, where I mentioned if you're going to buy a 100, buy a 5-speed instead of a 4-speed like my car over here. Well, now I do have a 5-speed car with me, so it made sense I made this video. So what is this video going to entail? Well, for one, between my research of these cars is actually extremely detailed, where every little thing on these cars has been changed over from its predecessor. So thinking OCDly, I decided, you know what, this deserves its own entire video, because this is not just a simple dashboard and a gearbox change. It's way more than that, in my opinion. So here we are today. I hope you enjoy. Sit back. I will separate these into a few different sections, as it could get really long, and I don't want to repeat myself, especially knowing that I have another video that addresses like most of the development range for these cars. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to point out both the 4-speed and the 5-speed's differences in every little incremental order, starting from motor to gearbox to the driveline to the inside to all the little trim things, and I will tell you all in one big video, because it will be easier for me to piece everything together than just, you know, splash it around and point aimlessly at something. So first off, I guess we better start with the front of these cars. Don't be fooled, the 4-speed in the previous video actually has the later 2005 facelift, or the second facelift as we like to call it, as it has the updated grille. It's got the one-piece headlight, and it's got the latter model 5-speed bumpers. This, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of that. Underneath this car is a Turbo Diesel KR-HDJ101K, which, if you know the codes, this means this car is a 2003 to 2007 car, if you search the codes enough. Now, why does it have the sinus front end? When I say sinus, actually LX470 front end, is because back in the days, I think in 98 or 99, I forgot which year exactly, when these were launched as the higher spec car, because the sinus / LX470 had more equipment on them. So a lot of people decided, you know what, I like this Lilo and Stitch style front end. So they decided to make what you call conversion kits for them. So underneath this car is actually a turbo diesel car, but the front face would trick you into thinking this is a sinus / LX470, when in fact it is not. I think what they changed was the bonnet, the front radiator support, the headlights, the bumper, the corner lights and all that, and it somehow didn't spark an error. Good old Toyota. Anywho. Yes, both of these cars are 1HDFTEs. I can already hear most of the American crowd just, girthing and wanting this thing. And there's a very good reason you will want these update cars instead of the current 98 cars you guys get to get, well, dated 2023, 2024, because you guys still have that pesky 25-year rule to, navigate around. This is a 1HDFTE. Now, this isn't just your regular-ass 1HDFTE, this is actually the update version.
This is the pinnacle of 1HD. Well, at least in my opinion, that is. This is a 2003 first-gen facelift HDJ101. Sounds like a mouthful, it is. And this has the 5-speed automatic JDM version. Now, what makes this particular one so special? Well, firstly, it's got a new turbocharger. This is a Garrett supplied GT2259V, which means this car has variable geometry turbos for the first time. I think this is actually the first one for Toyota's turbo diesel passenger cars, because previously they've only used fixed geometry turbos. Now, what makes these special over the regular ones? Firstly, response. Two, in terms of torque band, this widens the torque band significantly more. And three, because of how these are programmed, these actually shift and allow these engines to rev to a lot higher RPM. Now, the second change is, of course, in here. This might look like a pile of junk to most of you, but this actually does play a key part. This is where the VSV system and, of course, the swirl flaps are. Well, I say swirl flaps. It's actually within the intake system. Now, why are these swirl flaps important? One, if you're into M57s, you would know the good side of them. It makes these significantly more quiet and more refined looking. How they do that is they bypass the the intake charges, where when you're in, let's say, an idle situation, these don't require the fuel system and the entire injection system to be running at full chat like the earlier pre-facelift cars. So once these are on, these are a lot more docile sounding. But when you want to put your feet into it, it will still do the same four-speed things, just rev a little bit higher. Now, another change, of course, these have EGR coolers. Now, the EGR cooler is a Euro free market specific thing only, so these are shared with the Euro market HDJ 100Rs or Ls. So these are more refined sounding. And another change, of course, is the injectors. Now, based on part numbers, these injectors are actually unique to these particular 1HDFTEs compared to, say, the old pre-facelift ones. Another change, of course, is at the bottom end. The only weakness in the older Gen 1HDs is, of course, the pistons. Now, these pistons are unique, as in they feature new materials. I think it's a special coating on these, so these are actually more resistant to knock. So a lot of people, whenever they rebuild their 1HD FTEs, whether it's an early Gen 4-speed or 5-speed, they will try their best to get the 5-speed automatic / Euro 3 market specific pistons, because they're just so much better at resisting knock, and they can take a lot of beating. Now, what about the Australians? That Aussie action most of it is the same. The only change is, of course, in the turbocharger system and, of course, in the EGR cooler. Because Australia doesn't have as strict of emission standards, they decided to remove the GT2259V turbocharger and the EGR cooler. So mechanically, they look about the same as an HDJ 79 series motor, even though they are not. Y'all gonna enjoy this. This is what the entry and exit of what a 4-speed 101 would be like. As you can tell, the first thing you will notice is, of course, this car is pretty basic, dare I'd say. It does not have fancy wood grain. It does not have any of that. It's just got a relatively clean aesthetics, and that's about it. The first thing you would notice on these pre-facelift cars is, of course, the dashboard. Now, the dashboard on these have a, dare I say, old-timey TV setup. If you're an Asian from the mid 2000s and all that, you'll understand what I mean by that. Is TVs back then have this huge borders and everything. Nowadays, everything is just super slim. The easiest way to tell one is because the dashboard wraps around. This is where all the center AC is. Now, this car is a decidedly basic one, so it does not have the
air conditioning system being plumbed into the multi-function display. This has all the climate control and everything is just down here, where you control first your temperature, position. If I wanted to put this into auto, it would decidedly put it into whatever position I wish it to. And this is where you control the HVAC. As you can see, it is 32 degrees C and it's very hot, so putting it on high is probably a good idea. The easiest way to the next changes you would notice is, of course, in the instrument cluster. But before we touch on that, on these models, this should have what you call wood veneer surround on these. This car does not have that because this is decidedly only a VX Limited. This is not a G selection car. A G selection car would have, if I'm not mistaken, the wood grain would be just plastered everywhere. Like you would remember old Lincolns and Cadillacs of the 70s and the 80s. It would just be everywhere. Like there are some, there's even some cars with wood trim just plastered over here around the air vents and all that. Functionally, they're about the same. Just there are some different changes. This is where your hazards will be, and this is where you would lock the center differential to go into four-wheel drive. The next different change is, of course, in the instrument cluster. As you can tell, this car is deprived of gimmicks. You will not see any fancy gauges like the upper trim G selection model. So there's no Optitron for this particular car, but they do exist in some G selection cars. What you get is pretty basic. Gear positioned here. You have the, let's see here, power, second start, and of course ECT overdrive off button. And this is where most of the warning lights will be. Not that you will ever have a warning light in one of these cars, because these are pretty damn reliable. Over here is, of course, your oil pressure gauge. Let's see here. As you can tell, once I lay into it, it will start to go up. Watch how quickly it drops. It's pretty fast. Anywho, after that, you would get the temperature gauge, which it will not creep past the halfway point. It's pretty benign. Over here, you can tell this car is a JD, is just basic. There's your fuel gauge, and there is, oops, focus something, and that is the voltage gauge. As you can tell, this car has not been a garage queen. She's got 299,536 kilometers as of, let's see here, March 15th of 2024, the day I'm filming this. So this car is no spring chicken, but this car has been with us for a good part of a decade, and it really does show. Still not gonna sell it though. Now, welcome to the inside of the facelift dashboard 100 series. As you can tell, this is a much nicer place to be in. It's a little bit more sophisticated in its approach. Excuse the aircon because it's actually flipping hot as hell right now as I'm filming this in my garage. The first thing I want to mention is, of course, the differences from what you see right now. This, of course, means the dashboards is different. Now, the dashboard on these is not a one-piece. It's not actually like a giant one-piece unit. If you know about these cars, you will know that the old cars actually had the dashboard padding all the way down, becoming a one-piece unit. Okay, from an engineering point of view, it would look a lot smoother, but a downside to that is if you have a dash crack on your previous gen LC dashboard, you will have to replace the entire carcass. That's not fun. At least in these, you can actually replace this section as a two-piece, so you don't have to replace this part and this part together. Another change is, of course, the layout. You will notice that you don't get this whole old-school like television frame thing going on. This is the mid-2000s, must I remind you. So what you get is a pretty cohesive package. So you get four vents, but the vents on the center is different. It actually is now a separate piece. So if you're changing out these air vents, which you will, because these things are a maintenance item, I must add. So
these are easier to change out. The old one requires you to remove the entire section to be gutted out. Now another change is of course the features you get. Now on the old, on my old car, you would see this section here just displayed, well, roughly. You would get temperature and the clock. That's all you get. And these is a lot more flexible, shall we say. So you get aircon control is obviously separate like that car, but it's been modernized. So you get mode, you get how much the blower is turning on, automatic, off. It's a bit more sophisticated, and it's actually controlled by a dial. On top of that is where the head unit would be. When these came from the factory, you get to option it with, well, you get the choice of getting a giant ass blank, or if you are a complete and utter cheapskate, you could actually option these with the the CD changer. You could actually get a 6-disc CD changer in the later model cars. So you would get that as a base. Then, as with Toyota, you could always update it. You can upgrade that to be like a double-din head unit where it's got nav and all that, which works great in great in Osaka, but works shit in getting out. So we've just ditched that factory head unit and we put an Australian market head unit system. So you get audio, you get the map, you get destination. Do you see all the address points of interest? This is an Australian head unit. And it's got Bluetooth. Not to say the higher spec one with the integrated AC system with system type ones doesn't have Bluetooth, but it's only for hands-free phone calling. This one is much better at being an actual head unit. See, you can change the mode through the steering wheel. It's actually a lot nicer to be around. Another change is, of course, this funky little brother right here. So you have a couple of modes. You have range, kilometer, clock, and outside temp. What does that even mean? First of all, range. This is indicated by the onboard ECU base. It will calculate how much fuel you can go based on how much fuel is in the tank. I think there's a sensor within the tank where it measures your fuel usage, so it can give you a rough estimate of how much fuel, how far you can go. Believe me, these are very what you call it, underestimating, because these cars are way more efficient than they give out to be. So usually whenever it says 530 kilometers, in reality you can actually get 650 kilometers out of a single tank of diesel. Now it's not just range, you also get average fuel economy. 6.4 kilometers per liter is decent, but I've not been light with my foot, so this could definitely be lower. This is the average kilometer per liter of usage. This is more like a tripometer thing, and this is your average speed. Now around town and just moving the cars about, it's not really a big deal, so 4 kilometers an hour is somewhat decent. And this is the distance of your tripometer, so you can go full hog and you would be able to, see how many kilometers you've done. This is very useful in Australia, because let's say traveling from Cairns to Queens to, let's say, Sydney would probably be very good to know how long you've been driving. Now back to range, and then you have a clock where you can adjust hours, minutes, and the .00 to reset it back to 0, and of course the temperature being 34 degrees Celsius, which is flipping hot.
As you can tell, this instrument cluster is a bit unique. This is what they call the Optitron head unit. So as you'll notice, every gauge in here is not just a black background plastic and just like a red needle. Oh no. This is the 5-speed updated model, so this has the fancy bells and whistles. As you can tell, the oil pressure, the temperature and the engine, the voltage charge and the fuel tank, and the the RPM and the speedo are all illuminated in this Optitron setup. So it is a lot more, it's a lot more classy looking compared to, say, the more basic models. But they do have one particular failing. If they are, not taken care of and all that, these bulbs will actually become dark in the long term, so they do become a little bit dim, but that's okay. It's only a really small fix, so it's only like changing a few bulbs in the back of this instrument cluster, and off the way you go. Also, if you are used to 1HDFTEs, this oil pressure gauge is not in its normal spot of being in the middle. Now, why so? Is because of the VSV. So if I go for the gas, it will raise it up, but only to like less than half. But once I let that slide, it will not maintain being at, let's just say, half point. It would actually go down. You see? It's actually going down as we speak. That way, the VSV is a lot more efficient in making this car a lot more efficient to be in, as well as being more efficient on the engine. So these are actually more fuel economical than most people give them credit to. Alright, now we're in in the 4-speed pre-facelift 100 series turbo diesel, and this is what it drives like. Immediately, once you've driven the 4-speed and you hop back into an older gen car, you feel like when the car takes off, it's a little bit slower, so it feels less responsive than let's say than the new car with its new variable geometry turbos and its better gearing. We're gonna take a little bit slow, let the engine get up to temperature before we have fun. Right, we'll start at about 20 or 30 kilometers an hour, and we'll go to the middle. You can instantly tell that it's way more aggressive on the downshift compared to the 5-speed car. And it's shifted into overdrive, and we're doing it about 100 kilometers, around 100 kilometers an hour at about 2,000 RPM. So in terms of response, the facelift car is definitely better in terms of how it performs when you really just want to go for it, but this is still a pretty decent option to Americans who are looking into buying turbo diesel cars or have gone on the brakes. You see, if you want to drive it like a spastic, you can. But if you want to, just cruise on the way back, it's pretty decent. You can feel the transmission is not as responsive as that car, but I can't blame it. This car and that car are separated by only 5 years, and 5 years is quite a bit in terms of technological leaps in the automotive industry. So that's how the 4-speed automatic drives. Right. Stepping inside the updated LC100, this is how it drives like. I've got my camera person behind the camera holding the camera for me for once, because I don't have a GoPro. Anywho, this is what it feels like to drive an LC100. This is just around my neck of the woods. I'm going to show you what they drive like. As you can see, it's pretty sprightly. It gets off the line pretty quickly for turbo diesel, and it's generally more lively in terms of how it's driving. I'm gonna lay my foot into it and see what's what. It's shifting at 3,700 RPM. It's still holding gears. And we're about 100 at a pretty decent rate of speed. But if you don't want to drive like spastic, just put your throttle, put your feet in like a quarter throttle. Drives good. If you wanted to scoot up a bit more, just put a little bit more, and the turbo just instantly kicks on. We're already doing 60 km an hour. Back to where we started. That's a nice bit of a loop for you, and a little bit of a taster of what a 5-speed automatic 100 would feel like in terms of how its acceleration and everything goes. Not gonna lie, this is a very tough combination to beat. Now this car is not exactly stock. It's got 60th anniversary headlights. touring grille, and a non-original bonnet visor, which I will try and find. Now, one of the key different this particular generation of 4-speed automatic also has a special edition. It's called the 50th anniversary edition. Now, what entails a 50th anniversary edition? To celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Land Cruiser 100 Land Cruiser production, they decided, yeah, let's go give ourselves a little bit of a birthday present. So, what is unique to a 50th is, of course, the paint. They are painted in a very special blend of white. It's called 064 white. It's different to the regular white you'd see on the facelift cars and the second facelift cars, with a slightly brighter hue, if I'm not mistaken. Another change is, of course, the wheels. The 16 inches that came on the later model 100s is applied to here, which means the 16-inch wheel actually has a little bit of that, dare I say, metallic finish. It's very similar to what you call the hyper silver wheels you would find on the 0507 American UZJ 100s, as well as the later model LX470s. It's got that little bit of that almost titanium gray blend that's almost Porsche looking. So that's where one of the changes are. Another change is, of course, in the side steps. Now, the side steps on those particular cars, from a glance, they look like LX470 side steps with the illumination and all that. But what is different is they feature a little 50th anniversary script in the center, and the steps aren't actually one piece looking. Well, at least from appearance anyway. There's actually a partition that splits it directly in the center from when you view it from up close. So from afar, it does look like an LX470 step, but it's actually its own unique item. Now, that's about most of the changes. Ooh, I almost forgot. The 50th anniversary also features 2 badges in the back, which means that these cars have a little 50th anniversary plaque that's on the D-pillar, one on each side. Now, another change is when you step inside. Stepping inside the regular Hondos, it's pretty comfy in here. Now, what I alluded to when I was mentioning the 50th anniversary edition is, of course, the interior. Now, there are some changes to the interior that are unique to the 50th that aren't featured in any other 100 of that generation. First of all, the easiest way to tell a 50th anniversary is, of course, from the steering wheel, because any good car design must have a very good steering wheel design. It's almost like you're shaking hands with a car. Well, to quote one of my favorite journalists, the first thing you would see is the leather, especially the steering wheel, is different in terms of the badge over here. It features more like a chrome Toyota emblem that feels like it's been stuck on, but it's not actually being stuck on because of safety laws. Number 2, the wood finish over here. This wood finish is unique to the 50th. It's a little bit like the the LX470 early 4-speed LX470 wood. It's slightly brighter in its touch, and it accompanies a few features. First of all, the seat is trimmed in Alcantara, and when you actually get into the car, the kickstand, the sill plates have 50th anniversary inscribed into them. So they are unique to the 50th only. But the JDM 50th, I might be wrong, there may be a few 50th anniversaries from the UK and the European market. Another change is, of course, in the center console. In the center console area, you would get more wood. Feels like most of the Amazon rainforest was sacrificed for them cars. You would get a wooden, let's say wooden trimmed gear shifter, along with a chrome surround on the gear selector, as well as the finish on the center console is a lot brighter in terms of its finish, and it has a little 50th anniversary inscribed into here. Now, in terms of other things that accompany that is, of course, the switch panels are also in the same hue color as the 50th anniversary steering wheel. It's all color matching. And another one is of course here, where you would see leather on this car is actually Alcantara on the 50th / its later successors. Anniversary panel. Now the next special edition is of course the premium edition. This particular special edition is less well known because there's not a lot of these around. How do you distinguish one of these what you call special editions? Premium edition, sorry. One is the paint. Now this paint code is not shared with any US market 100 series or LX470 as far as I know. It's a paint job called KL4 Platinum toning. The way the color shines under light, it's more like I would almost say Porsche PTS, but that wouldn't do it justice. It's like a silver with a bit of like blue pearl. It's very light. From afar, you would think it's like faded silver, but it's not. Another change. One of the features for the premium edition is of course the key fob, the key box, and they all featured the 2-post wing as standard. Now you didn't get the 2-post wing unless you ordered a Sinus back then. So to anyone who ordered one of those what you call premium editions, it's a pretty rare car. Let me put it to you that way. I've only seen one circulating around Sabah. Now the third of these special editions is of course the Touring edition. Now the Touring edition, okay, full disclaimer, it's my personal favorite of the special editions because it just has the right blend of luxury car and, you know, off-road prowess. Not in prowess as capability, but it's more so of the features it brings in. Now how do you spot a Touring? First, easiest way, look for the wheels. They feature these 18-inch Hyper Silver wheels, as standard equipment. Now the second way to tell is the grille. Now the grille on this car is shared with a Touring. The third is of course the paint. Now, not in this what you call 8P6. Is it eucalyptus? Not eucalyptus. Sorry. It is painted in 202 black, 1F7 silver, or 1E9 gray. These are the only 3 color options you got for those cars. From the outside, it's only a wheel change, and of course on the back you get the 2-post wing you would get on the LX470 and the premium edition. It's what's on the inside is what counts. Now on the inside of the Touring, you would see it shares some similarity to its first special edition, the 50th anniversary. The easiest way to know that you have a Touring is to step inside. Now the first course of action is of course the seats. Now the seats are trimmed in Alcantara. Okay, I might have alluded to this earlier, but the OG 50th anniversary edition also have Alcantara seats. But the difference between the two cars is, of course, its shade. The 50th anniversary has a more beige looking fabric to the Alcantara, whereas the 60th anniversary is like all black. It's all business class looking. Now another way to tell a Touring versus a normal car is of course in the door, you know, the cover panels. Now on these it's patched in leather. On the Tourings is actually in Alcantara, so it's actually very, very nice to the touch.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
Save the best for last. And this is, to a lot of people, the best version of the LC100, at least in the turbo diesel spec. This, of course, is the 60th anniversary. Now, the 60th anniversary was a Toyota, you know, to celebrate Toyota's 60th anniversary as a company. So, at the time, they had a line of 60th anniversary products from the Crowns to your Land Cruiser Prados to the Sinus to the LC100, Estimas, Alphas. Basically, the entire line got a 60th anniversary, you know, dress up. To tell a 60th anniversary LC100 is quite simple. Basically, if you're used to looking at a Touring, just add extra elements. One such element is viewed from the front. This
is what the 60th anniversary headlights look like. It might look like the normal US American spec one-piece headlight, except it doesn't have the orange markers. But this has a slightly blue tinge to it. I hope it comes up on camera, because this is actually quite drastic when we first got this headlight in its box a few years ago. It's got this slightly green tint. It's almost matcha-like in its color. And the grille has been swapped out for a fully chromed one, as per the original 60th anniversary one. So it looks more, how should we say, more pronounced. Another way to tell a 60th is, by default, they should all have basically like the touring specification. It's on the inside is where they all differ. Now on a touring, the center console is trimmed it has the wood finish. It's a slightly lighter wood finish as you would find in the 2003 to 2007 VX Limited LC100 center panels. The difference is the 60th has black marble. My friend and I debate about this quite a lot. He says it's jade. I say it's black. You know, we could get into this whole black dress thing with the odd coloring debate again. But we're not going to do that because we don't have enough time. So what I'm going to showing it is the kick plates are also different. They have this Land Cruiser embossment. When shone under the right light, it will have a little bit of a red hue to it. You could actually see it. It has this little red maroonish finish. It's like almost like a shine. Another one is the switch panels in the back. Now the switch panels, most of these have the 2003-07 wood finish, but to complement the 60th anniversary center console trimmed in black, these also get the black or jade wood panels on the driver's side, the passenger side, and the rear two, window surrounds, window switch surrounds. Another one is, of course, something you get when you bought the cars new. One is a original key box, which I have had my hands on. It's actually quite premium feeling, where it has two inserts for the keys of the cars. And you will also receive a 60th anniversary service manual booklet. So it means that it's kind of like it's trimmed in leather and has the 60th anniversary tag on the top. It feels very premium to the touch. Okay, if we're gonna talk about special editions, we can't ignore its sinus counterpart, which we will look into. The first is, of course, the same 50th anniversary. Now, the 50th anniversary does not use Alcantara, but instead uses genuine leather, so it is like most LX470s. I think the only change is, of course, the color on the car would be the same 064 white you would get in the 50th anniversary 100. And I think the side steps are about the same, and I think the only change is perhaps the steering wheel and the gear shift surround, where you get this like wood veneer gear selector and the same 50th anniversary touches. But the only main changes is, of course, you don't get them in Alcantara, get them in leather. And in terms of standard equipment, I think on the 50th anniversary they're all equipped with the cold weather package, which means that on the 50th you would get a heated side mirrors to heat them up during the cold, so you can actually see them after being parked outside in freezing cold temperatures and starting them up in the morning. This next special edition is, of course, the premium edition. Now, the premium edition shares about the same differences to a normal sinus than it is to the LC100. So the changes are, of course, the special color, the key box, a special keychain actually, and I think that's about it. They didn't add much more to it aside from the trim panels. They do not come with like 50th anniversary badges on the side. So the easiest way to tell one of these is, of course, look at the paint. That's about it. It's in its special KL4 platinum toning. Now, those are for the 2000 for the 50th and 2003 for the premium edition, respectively. Now to 2005 April, where the first of the final facelift LC100/Sinus you would get something called the interior selection. Now, why did they call it interior selection? That means that it is the first time they've actually introduced a different color to the interior, so that's why they call it interior selection probably. So on a normal Sinus, you will of course get these cream leather seats, slightly different shades on the LC compared to the Sinus, but we're gonna gloss over that. So you would get, this time instead of cream, you will actually get gray leather, or I think it's actually, yeah, it is gray leather. The only changes to the Sinus externally is you get a special color. Now you get 1F7 silver, 062 white, 202 black, which is the most common of these colors, and with a very special new addition is called 67 Cypress Pearl, aka my personal favorite for the LX470/Sinus, because there are not a lot of these colors around, so they're quite unique to the platform. The final special edition is of course the 60th anniversary. Now these were built in conjunction with the LC100 60th anniversary, so they take the same principle as the Touring and the 60th LC100, so they're about the same. Now for the 60th anniversary Sinus, you would get externally 4 color choices again: black, silver, 67 Cypress Pearl, and for this particular year 3Q2, which is like a pearl maroon color. It's actually quite a special color too. I've only seen it on one particular car that's actually on the brochure. On the inside is where things are a little bit different. It is actually more of an addition to the interior selection. So you'll get the standard gray leather seats, gray trim panels and all that, but this time you will get the same jade / black wood trimming on the center of the instrument panel, and you would get black jade switch panels as well. Oh, I almost forgot, the 60th anniversary and the 60th anniversary Sinus, both the LC and the Sinus versions, all get by factory the factory head unit. When I mean factory head unit, means it has the integrated head unit where you control the AC by pressing a separate button into the multifunction display. They all come as standard with that, and also both of them come in cold weather specs, so both of them have the same heated side mirrors as well. Another change is, of course, once you're getting into a 60th anniversary, whether it is the Sinus or the LC100, the kick plates are the same. They have this like ruby stone finish whenever you shine the right light at them, but instead of saying Land Cruiser on the 60th anniversary LC100, the Sinus actually says Sinus, but with this red, red finish on the kick plate. And you also get the same key box as well as the maintenance service cover as well. That's about the only changes between the two special edition cars. Right, how do we summarize the 4-speed versus the 5-speed debate? Obviously I'm going to be siding with the 5-speed, but due to sentimental memories, this car is going to be here for at least a while longer. At least on the channel, you will see this car fairly recent into the next episode. But in terms of the conclusion, well, in terms of improvements, you can see that Toyota spent a lot of extra R&D budget into making the later gen 5-speeds a lot better cars. I would argue, and I might be wearing rose tinted glasses, so this for me is just pinnacle of the LC station wagon platform. It's comfortable, it's reliable, the service cost isn't insane, and they're actually decent on fuel, and they're relatively, headache free once you get all the maintenance checks done. This is about as perfect of an LC as one can hope to ever achieve. So if you have any suggestions in the comments of what videos you guys would like to see next, head on down and show some love, share the video around, all that YouTuber crap that you would normally associate. I think that will be enough from me, but rest assured this won't be like I shoot one video for a year, then I take another 2 years off for some catastrophic reasons. I will be shooting, well, this is a sneak peek, I will be shooting another LC100 comparo, but this time it won't be for IFS versus IFS. This time it will be IFS and solid axle. Now that will be something very interesting for the US audience, because you guys are starting to get these cars, and I want to see you guys drive around in my favorite generation of LC100. So with that, I would like to thank you guys for sticking around. I'm still surprised there's like 1,500 subscribers still watching, subscribed to the channel, even though I've been dormant for the last one and a half years. I feel like I'm always doing some sort of oversimplified video where I don't upload for the rest of the year and suddenly BAM! There's content. Anyways, I very much appreciate you guys watching, following, subscribing, commenting, sharing with your friends and all that. I really do appreciate it, you guys sticking around. So, hopefully you'll see another episode come up soon. Ta-ta!